Frankie Montas has signed with the New York Mets 2 years, $34 million with an opt-out, a player option at the end of the 2025 season for 2026. We are here to give you our instant reaction, discuss what we think. This is a name we have been mentioning for years. I know he's a big guy for you, Mr. James Shiano. How are you feeling hearing this news?
I feel really good. I feel like a little bit me, a little bit us kind of willed this to happen. He just seemed like a very obvious guy who'd be in the Mets price range, coming in at a lower contract than the qualifying offer pitchers got. And I think that some people are like, wow, I can't believe Frankie Montas, a guy whose ERA has been in the high fours, low fives for the last couple of years, getting $17 million a year. Well, with Nick Martinez, Luis Severino getting $21 million a year in the qualifying offers, and Severino turning it down to go back into the market, this is what a guy like Montas gets, who has big-time stuff, has big-time velocity, but hasn't gotten the results in a few years. But he made a lot of good changes last year when he went to the Brewers. His strikeout rate skyrocketed. This is the upside arm. This is the next version of Manaea Severino that we're taking the shot on this season. And we're jumping the market to do it, which I like.
This is literally the Severino replacement.
It's in between those two.
Yeah, it is in between those two, but it's just, I love the move. Again, we've on this podcast been very pro Frankie Montas as a guy who we know is a bit more of a project than some of these other pitchers, where with Severino and Manaea and that it was just about getting innings under them and tweaking some things. Montas has had shaky years the last few seasons. It hasn't been smooth. He was on the Yankees for a bit, was terrible there. It was bad with the Reds. Even his Brewers stint was interesting. Like you said, the K rate was up, but it's hard to find guys with the stuff like Frankie Montas has. It's hard to find guys on the free agent market who could be as good, who have the ceiling like a guy like Frankie Montas has. I'm shocked how much the Twitter discourse right now is about this being a bad move. And I truly, the only thing that it can be is has to be people are only looking at the ERA, right? Because if you dive any deeper on Frankie Montas, this is what starting pitchers go for. And a lot of the guys who are going to be going around the same price don't have the stuff that Frankie Montas has.
No, and another thing is that Frankie Montas has been a bit more of a fly ball pitcher for most of his career than a ground ball pitcher. And the last three teams that Frankie Montas played for, while his stats and his results weren't tremendously great, he pitched for the Yankees, the Reds, and the Milwaukee Brewers. The Yankees, the Reds, and the Brewers, their home ballparks are all in the top 6 in Baseball Savant's park factors for easiest ballparks to allow a home run. When you're a pitcher like Frankie Montas, who throws with heavy velocity, uses the top of the zone a good bit, and you give up more than average fly balls in the league, you're going to get fly balls, and a lot of times you're going to go out of the ballpark. When he was a pitcher with the A's, I know it was a long time ago now. I know he got popped for PEDs. I know the fastball is 2 mile an hour slower. He had some great seasons. He had some seasons where you're like, wow, Frankie Montas is could become an all-star type guy. He has all the makings of being a very solid middle rotation pitcher, and $17 million is the going rate for solid middle rotation pitchers. The money is not an issue for me. The 1 to 2 years, that's also not an issue for you all. This seems like a very good, very fair contract that has a modicum of downside, but also a lot of upside.
Yeah, when you look at Frankie Montas just as a pitcher in general, I mean, with his fastball, his average miles per hour last year was in the middle 90s, almost 96 miles an hour.
Over 95.
95.6. He's got that. He's got the cutter. He's got the splitter. He's got the slider. I know some of these pitches haven't been as sharp over the last few years. The slider got hit really hard this past season. But we do know that Jeremy Hefner has done great things with a couple pitchers last year, Sean Manaea and Luis Severino. I can't wait to see what Jeremy Hefner can do when he gets his hands on Frankie Montas. And to me, giving him that option, giving him a possible second year, makes me believe that whatever they saw from Frankie Montas, they believe that there could be some real value there by giving him that second year. And truthfully, could be the reason why he's more at that $17 million a year rate rather than $18, $19, or even $20 million a year, for one.
Definitely. I think a lot of people are looking at other contracts that have been signed recently. One being the Michael Wacha one, where he signed for 3 years, $17 million per. I think it's just very different to commit a third year to a pitcher, especially because people are looking at the ERAs for Wacha over the last few years. And I do think the Wacha deal was a big discount. I think it was legitimately a bargain, but I think the third year in a guy who's as old as Wacha is a little bit scary. Also, a guy like Wacha probably just had a lot of success in Kansas City. Probably was like, I want to stick around. So that's something about changing teams. We're staying at the old one. But I really want to look deeply now at the changes that Frankie Montas made last year after being traded from the Reds to the Brewers midseason. Because I think it's a really good window into what he can be and how good he can be for the Mets. Because not many teams are better than the Brewers at these in-season adjustments, these pitch mix tweaks, these game plan tweaks, these sequencing and strategic tweaks for pitchers. So I don't really know how much different we're going to do based on what they did. And the biggest thing that they did for him was that he was leaning on his two-seamer or his sinker. He's called it both in the past, but I don't want to identify which of those pitches are for him. But he was throwing it way, way, way more, especially against left-handed hitters who were annihilating him when he was with the Reds. He threw that two-seamer 8% against lefties with the Reds while he was with the Reds, and he threw 20% overall when he was with the Brewers. He threw only 7% of the time on the first pitch with the Reds, and he threw 34% of the time on the first pitch with the Brewers. Those then started to replace his four-seam fastball, which he used to lean on early in the count against lefties, and then that four-seam fastball went to the back and became his put-away pitch, because that four-seam fastball is a good pitch. It has good life on it. Like we said, it sits 95, 96, still can get up to 97 miles an hour. That's a really relevant thing. Another thing is he stopped using his cutter, which got annihilated for almost a 700 slugging percentage while he was with the Reds. He took that one out, and then he leaned back on his splitter, which I think forever has been Frankie Montas' best pitch. That's the pitch that when he broke out and popped off with the A's 5 years ago, that was the one he learned, and he went like this. He was throwing splitters before they were cool. So the fact that with 2 strikes, he leaned on his best 2 pitches, his fastball and his splitter, I like a lot. If we can coax one more mile of velocity back out of that fastball, I think it'd be a really, really good thing. But again, Milwaukee it's not that easy of a place to pitch. I think sometimes it gets that rap because the Brewers are really good at run prevention, but it's the 6th easiest park based on StatCast park factors to hit a home run in Major League Baseball. The fact that a guy like Frankie Montas, who has a slightly above average fly ball rate, you get him out of that ballpark, I think it's a really, really, really good thing for him to come to Citi Field after making those adjustments. And after making those adjustments, I know the ERA wasn't really that pretty when he was with the Brewers, but his strikeout rate jumped from 19% to 30%.
Huge.
Between his time with the Reds to his time with the Brewers. So if he's a 30% strikeout guy and a 10% walk guy, that'll put him in the top 25 in the league in strikeout minus walk rate. You guys know how much I love strikeout minus walk rate. That's what I'm looking for if I'm trying to deduce future value, and that's why I really, really, really like this move.
Yeah, and again, the contract too. I know people keep bringing it up, but if you're going to look at guys getting paid similar amounts of money in Major League Baseball right now, Miles Mikolas is making more money than Frankie Montas next year. He's getting $18.5 million. Marcus Stroman's $18.5 million. Lucas Giolito's getting paid $19.2 million. Eduardo Rodriguez got $20 million. Yusei Kikuchi just got $21 million from the Angels. This is just what pitching goes for nowadays. If you are a pitcher who can throw innings, you are going to get paid $15 million at minimum. You just don't find pitchers for cheaper, and I think that's what a lot of people are missing in this. They go, $17 million for a guy who had a 4.8 ERA, who had a 5 ERA a couple years ago. Like, what are we doing? Holy overpay. Then every single pitcher that's ever going to sign is going to be an overpay to you, and I don't know what to tell you. This is a solid contract. If he stinks, he stinks. You take the L on that one, but we just took Luis Severino, who literally had not been even any semblance of a major league pitcher for the last 3-4 seasons, gave him a really good season. Sean Manaea completely transformed his game this last year. I feel extremely comfortable with what the Mets front office has been doing decision-wise. I feel extremely comfortable with Jeremy Hefner at the helm, the Mets pitching lab, getting him in there, learning a few things, making some tweaks. I know the Brewers are really good at it, and they clearly found something. That 30% K rate means something is there, and I got to believe that's why the Mets jumped all over this.
Totally. And I do think this is the same kind of move, like we said last year about Severino, and like we're talking about Frankie Montas right now. This is a move. This is a David Stearns move.
Yes.
Like, we can't fill out the rotation totally with aces. And we know right now the brunt of the Mets' focus is all on Juan Soto. So until you know if you're going to have Juan Soto or not, you really can't have a serious conversation with Corbin Burns. I think it's going to change that nexus a lot. We've talked about those guys at length. But to see a guy like Montas, who is out there, who has above average fastball velocity, 5 pitches, at least 4 of them are above average, and you just saw some major tweaks happen in an 11-start sample. They saw his strikeout rate jump 10 percentage points, was walk rate holding steady. You have a guy here who, if he becomes your 3 and you even get a little bit of luck with that ERA, you're sitting pretty right now. You have a guy. And I think that's really, really important for this Mets to build this rotation out, not from the back up, not from the top down, but kind of from the middle out, which is how they found their success last year. And I don't think you're going to go into the season where Frankie Montas is pitching on opening day.
Absolutely not. Jose Quintana did. Remember that, by the way, guys.
Yeah, so I think you're going to have a chance where, like, you look up a junior, like, oh, Frankie Montas looks pretty good right now, and I could hang my hat on it.
And I think he has that ceiling, and I think that's super important to remember with a guy like Frankie Montas. He has the ability to be a very solid pitcher where it might be a little more volatile than some of these other guys on the market right now, but the volatility upwards is way higher than a lot of the guys who are going to sign for similar amounts of money like Frankie Montas. Will Salmon giving us a tweet here as we're recording this, quote tweeting his own article from last week talking about the Mets rotation possibilities. He said, we had noted here that it sure seemed like the Mets were looking at short-term deals with starting pitching in some cases. Adding Montas on a 2-year deal completely fits that description. So it seems like right now the Mets' eye on the pitching market is going to be these short-term deals, and it would make sense with the way the Mets have been drafted in the last few years as well.
Yeah, and it just makes so much sense, seeing where the Mets had success last year. It's so similar. I really think it's like splitting the gap between the Severino and Manaea deals. Where it's like, we think we're going to get some volume here. Frankie Montas got over 150 innings last year, and that was after he came off some really, really injury-plagued seasons with the Yankees. Really kind of fell apart there. But seeing him get back to that same spot with 150 innings last year was a big deal. Again, the ERA was high, but his last 2 full seasons between 2021 and 2022, he threw 331 innings with a 3.7 ERA.
You're not for 17 mil. That would be a steal. That'd be a steal and a half.
It would be such a steal that he wouldn't sign. He wouldn't take his player option next year.
No
he would
shot.
go back. If he this year goes 150 innings with a 3.7 ERA, he's going back in the free agent market next year, and he will do better than that contract. And you know what? Because I'm pretty sure he was never offered a qualifying offer by the Yankees. So I think this is the same thing as Severino, where even if he declines that option, we can offer him a qualifying deal to give him like a $21 million contract. So it's kind of sneaky a mutual option more than a player option here. And if he does leave next year, if he does well, we get another compensation pick. So just a shrewd move by David Stearns. More really, really good things being done by this Mets front office. Just the trust is through the roof right now for everything that these guys are doing.
I'm loving Twitter right now. You have it's so funny. I think there's like the fans that listen to us that are like in agreement where they're like, yes, love this move, savvy move by the front office. And then you have the old heads on Twitter where they're like 4.80 ERA. What the hell are we doing paying this guy all this money? Then you have the fans of other teams who are like, I can't believe you did this. You're so stupid. You're wasting Soto money. It's so funny to hear just the conversation from everyone because it almost seems like nobody ever agrees with us except the man up top, David Stearns. We know he's listening.
The king. Someone also found a tweet I made about Frankie Montas purely from a fantasy baseball perspective on August 3rd, his first start after he got traded, where I said he threw more sinkers than cutters because this cutter had a 700 slug off it. He took away his sliders because he stopped throwing them to lefties. That was something he really changed hardcore after going to the Brewers too. And more fastballs, using that as his put-away pitch with 2 strikes. Like that's a really good recipe. And the fact that the Brewers were able to do something like that in season, maybe the Mets saw a little bit something more. Maybe they saw something with his location, something else with sequencing. After, again, I hate having this blind confidence, but after everything we saw last year with what the Mets were able to do with mid-rotation pieces, I'm really confident in getting one that can throw 96 miles an hour with a nasty splitter.
Me too. I like the move. I think
love the move.
I think it was a great move by the Mets. I love the aggressiveness while everybody's waiting on Soto. Sneak in there, grab a pitcher that can give you some innings, that can give you some value. This rotation needs help. We need more arms. Frankie Montas is one of them. I shout out David Stearns. I love this guy. He's just making moves. And it's maybe because he agrees with us on a lot of the things that we like to see too. Genesis Cabrera ended up on the Mets somehow. Don't know how that happened. I don't know where that came from. But David Stearns masterclass yet again.
Yeah, if anybody listening right now is in the Mets front office in any capacity, any analyst, anyone doing anything, just hit us up. Just let us know that someone actually is listening. It seems like we say things and weirdly they kind of happen. Or we're just kind of on top of this. We kind of know exactly where the Mets are shopping because we really saw how David Stearns shopped last year. And it's kind of easy to find these guys at the end of the day. Like, how much have we talked about Frankie Montas even in the last 3 weeks? It's crazy.
I mean, a lot.
Like a lot.
We did an entire episode on Black Friday, and we had the conversation of if Frankie Montas was a bargain pitcher. And I think the line you set was $17 million.
It was exactly. And I was below or above $17 million. That's exactly what he came out to.
And I think I said higher, and I think you said lower. We were both wrong.
Yeah, but even, exact. But there were changes made. He looks good. He is more velocity than you're mostly going to get from a pitcher in the free agent market. And can I give you a bold prediction?
Yes, give me a bold prediction to end this year.
I think Frankie Montas is better than Jack Flaherty next year.
Ooh, okay. James Shiano said it. December 1st, 2024. Frankie Montas, better year than Jack Flaherty. How are we judging that?
Judge on ERA.
Wow. Not an ERA guy said, give me the ERA. I like it.
And I said last year, because Mets fans were clamoring for Lucas Giolito, and he signed the contract with the Red Sox. And I said in a tweet, I left it out there, I would rather the Mets sign Frankie Montas, Lucas Giolito. Frankie Montas would have given you 150 innings. Yep.
Lucas Giolito blew out his arm. Sucks. I hate that for him, but
terrible. Yep. Hope he comes back and pitches well this year, but I'm in on Frankie Montas. I'm ready to watch David Stearns, Jeremy Hefner, and Eric Yeagers cook.
Me too. Hope you guys enjoyed this instant reaction of the Frankie Montas signing. Again, anything that goes on, we will have it out for you. And if you're listening to us, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, drop us a rating, drop us a review, download and subscribe. Subscribe to the Mets'd Podcast YouTube channel if you like what you see over here. Drop a like on the video. Follow James on Twitter at
James_Shiano.
And I'm Giraffe Neck Mark with a C. Thank you guys for listening and watching. We will catch you all on another episode later this week. Peace out.
Peace out. See you guys next time.